Okay, folks, so if you're hearing this, there's a good chance you've been part of the historic Crown Crest situation, or you've been following it on social media. That's good. Um, so, very briefly, here on Tuesday, that's this upcoming Tuesday, December the 20th, at 6 p.m. Doors are going to open at 5:30, but it's going to kick off at 6. We are going to be hosting an informational event followed by a Q&A session. Going to provide some refreshments. I don't know exactly what, but probably something along the lines of cookies and pizza. So if you're gluten intolerant, I don't know what to tell you. Bring some celery. Um, anyway, so what we're looking to do in roughly the 40 minutes that we have the Zoom meeting live for is go over a very brief history of the Crown Crest Cemetery, just in regards to like the recent past, how it has set as an entity to this point, the current status, where we're at right now as we exist as an entity, kind of a brief synopsis too of our financial situation, just to breed some transparency. Obviously, historically, we've had some impropriety going back to the Greniers, and even beyond that. So wanted to clear the air there and kind of give a picture of where we are. Wanted to talk about the near future state, what we're hoping to do, the efforts we are putting forward to assemble a board, get a charter going, uh, get that 501c13 status if possible, re-engage in uh, the creation, sale, and transfer of new lots, expanding the cemetery. We still have room out there. We just legally can't do it right now. And creating more bandwidth into perpetual care fund, mitigating some upcoming expenses that are just inevitable, trying to do the best we can there. Um, Kind of just basically increasing the general beautification of the area, the quality of afterlife, um, as it is. So then also the long-term future of management, succession planning, where we're going, trying to kind of create both a board and a larger community group, association, or friends of type of entity, so we can garner more community input, more volunteerism, things like that. Um, Also, some practical things. I know people have been asking about winter decorations off the hook. I get 2 or 3 calls a day regarding this, so I wanted to kind of air this one out. So basically, moving forward, winter decorations are going to basically be guidelines, not rules. At this point, we can't really actively police anything because of the manpower situation. I mean, it's just me and TJ at this point actively doing things, and there's 6,800 graves out there, so of course, we're asking that people, use some common sense and, really engage their brain cells when it comes to decorations. Basically, just don't be a jerk, and you'll be fine. Um, so when it comes to the winter decorations, what we're planning on doing is having the guidelines in place from the Monday after Veterans Day, which is typically in November, to the Monday after President's Day, which is typically at the end of February. So that will be what our effective winter is, basically from, say, December to March, realistically. But Veterans Day and President's Day being good patriotic markers of those things. So what it basically boils down to is we're going to turn all of our vases down. And the reason for this is the bronze vases in your markers, they're expensive to replace. If you go through Matthews, the manufacturer, you can end up paying upwards of $400 to replace these vase units. And I know it's frustrating when you go out of your way and you put 10, 15, $20 into flowers for the winter months. And there's some really beautiful arrangements out there that I've seen people use with like holly and berries and baby's breath. They're very nice. The reality just being is, for the sake of a $20 or $30 flower arrangement, when that water gets in there and it freezes in the vase, it blows the seam out of the vase entirely. Oftentimes, they won't even fit back into your headstone after that damage occurs if it's severe enough. And so, for the sake of $20 or $30 worth of flowers, we've compromised, a $400 piece of your monument. So I don't want to see that happen. So we are going to do a manual vase down for the winter. You can expect that to be done by January 1st. We'll be completely done with that if you don't do it yourselves. But that's just to protect your property at the end of the day. So I apologize. Unfortunately, flowers we can't really do much about. I'm trying to leave the flowers in there as long as I can and face down the vases that don't have flowers in them first. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see a whole bunch of busted seams on vases next year. So we're going to be vase down by the beginning of the year. And then in regards to new decorations going up through the winter, I'm absolutely open to accommodating any types of wreaths, trees, Yule logs. Somebody asked about grave blankets, which like Arlington does with the evergreen blankets. That's perfectly fine. The only suggestion that I would have in regards to winter decorations is please make sure that they stand roughly 18 inches high or are fairly wide. The idea being, if we have a significant snowfall, I don't want your decorations to be totally buried under the snow and then have the instance where in the process of driving the excavator down for an interment or driving the snowblower down to make room for services and things like that, we end up running over your decorations or turning them into confetti with the snowblower. That wouldn't be ideal, of course. So if your decorations are on the graves for the winter, that's fine. Just make sure that they are going to be big enough that we can see them if we get a significant snowfall, so we're not accidentally running them over there. So that's that. In regards to when they come off, basically mowing season will probably resume mid-March with a spray down kind of weed and feed treatment for the whole yard. So if you can get them off before March starts, that would be ideal. Again, our winter decorations will be going out roughly on President's Day or the Monday after President's Day, and from there we'll be re-engaging kind of summer rules, if you will, or summer, again, guidelines. We really don't have the bandwidth, the time, or the funding to employ an army to go out there and aggressively enforce them. So please use, a brain cell when it comes to decorating, because if you do it right, they should be up there the whole time without a problem. And if you do it horribly wrong, again, they will be up there causing chaos and discord for your neighbors probably the whole time. So just, bear in mind, have a little consideration for everyone, and we should all get along fine. In terms of flags, so this is important. I've talked to the VA, I've talked to the representatives there for the county. If you didn't know, the commissioners do have a fund for cemeteries regarding the disbursement of flags and the disbursement of veteran status markers for whichever war they served in throughout the county. So that's something they do for all cemeteries. In respect to the commissioners and the VA of the county, what we're going to do is for winter, we are going to remove the flags only, not the veterans markers. They can stand the weather, but the flags generally can't all winter long. They tend to get wet, they freeze, and then the weight of the fabric being frozen tends to rip it right off the flag, and you get dry rot in the wood and whatnot. So we're going to be removing veterans flags starting here. Honestly, we should have started it a little after Veterans Day, but again, the goal is to be done by January 1, if at all possible. I know I'm going to get at least one or two people going, hey, why did you take our flag down? And the reason is to preserve the flag so that it can be reposted next year, again, right around President's Day as the weather begins to get back into niceness. We'll be putting them back out. And this is basically, at the end of the day, to preserve the county's budget. We can't be letting, we have 1,042 veterans with an active DD-214, that is, they are verified veterans by the VA. We have well over 1,000 veterans out in the yard, and we can't be actively destroying 1,042 flags every year and expecting the commissioners to replace them. So we're doing our best to ensure that they are maintained by not exposing them to the winter weather. In regards to the markers, again, they're going to be staying out in the yard just as a matter of preserving them. In terms of discrepancies, I know sometimes when we have an interment, we'll move some things around to make room for the excavator, make room for the equipment, and sometimes they don't go back to the home that they necessarily belong at during the summer. We have volunteers that will come up occasionally and mow little plots, weed eat little plots, and sometimes they'll move markers and they don't go home to where they belong. So if you have discrepancies or concerns that there's a veteran's marker that's damaged or a flag that's missing, anything like that in terms of your veterans markers that are out there in the yard, please do contact the office first. Give us a call. It's 814-765-7742. Email me, that's fine too, luke.walker@crowncrest.us, or even message us, like on Facebook, social media, that's fine too. Hey, write us a letter. Put a little slip of paper in our drop box at the door. It's 2122 Washington Avenue in Clearfield, technically Hyde, of course, right across from the cemetery. Contact us. And the reason I say this is because the VA, especially since the Greniers and kind of the various changes of management / mismanagement problems that have been happening in the past, they have an inordinately large log of complaints that go directly to the VA. And at this time, just as a reminder, it's not the county, it's not the township, it's not the city of Clearfield or Curransville that's managing the cemetery. There is no lawyer retainer at this point. It is being managed by myself and the historic Crown Crest Cemetery staff, so it's being privately managed at this time. And so what will happen is if you call into the VA or to a governing entity to make a complaint about these type of things, is the first thing they do is, of course, stop whatever else they're doing, in service of the county or in service of veterans and their families. They stop what they're doing, they answer the phone, they will log the complaint, as they have to, of course, and then they will pretty immediately pick up the phone and call me. So, typically speaking, it's the staff here that resolves this issue. It's honestly, during the winter, typically myself that will resolve the issue physically. We do have replacement markers out here. We do have replacement flags. So, practically speaking, it would be helpful and beneficial to everyone involved if you contact us first, because typically speaking, we can resolve the issue here, and we can resolve the issue more timely, and we can allow for the VA or the county or the township to go about their business and serve the public in the ways that they do more effectively if they don't have to constantly telephone tag back to us and say, hey, you have a problem. It's like, well, gee whiz, let me take care of that. If only the person with the problem would have contacted us directly, that would be excellent. And for the most part, I think people do that. I don't think it's a chronic issue. I think most people know that, but if you didn't, no fault of yours, of course. Information hasn't been well provided or documented in the recent past, as all of this ownership change has been occurring. But just do your best to contact us first if you have any trouble. By and large, I'm able to resolve issues related to VA markers, flags, etc. here in the office. I just need to have a valid DD-214 or some type of service record for the individual to verify to the county that they do indeed need a marker or flag, and we're good to go. So that's that. Again, we're going to do flags down. Should have started after Veterans Day, and we'll go flags up right there after President's Day, probably looking at, realistically, beginning of March before the mowing starts. We'd like to have all of the flags out there by Memorial Day, which is a little bit of a break of tradition. It had been last year where there weren't flags out whatsoever. There wasn't a lot of interaction whatsoever until Memorial Day, and it became crisis grade like 3 days before Memorial Day, and there weren't flags out at all, and there had to be an army of volunteers deployed in like 2 days' time to take care of that problem. So not a thing we want to have a repeat performance of this year, so we're going to be actively going flags up with our reserve flags starting after President's Day, continuing on to be resolved entirely by Memorial Day, and double check the records there. So that's the nature of what's going on with flags, with veterans markers, with general veterans affairs as we're going. I know we got some feedback from VFW from Honor Guard too that they prefer to see flags up throughout the course of the winter also. And given that, I definitely appreciate the input. I can see kind of where they're coming from, and if in future we can find the budgetary resources necessary to purchase our own flags, we would absolutely consider doing that. However, at this time, everything's being provided by the commissioners, and it's part of the county budget. It is a taxpayer expense, and so in respect to that fact, we want to preserve the materials that are entrusted to us to the best of our ability by keeping them out of the winter weather, at least at this junction. Although, again, if you feel that the veterans flags need to be up, as an individual or as an entity, you are more than welcome to work in conjunction with us to put out, your own flags, your own markers, or even I'm sure we could probably figure out some type of way for you to just budget in. I'm sure they're only like $2 or something like that. It can't be a lot per flag, and we'll happily, take care of that for you also. So just that's kind of where we're at with flags and markers and keeping that consistency. We'll resume summer decoration and flags up again roughly the beginning of March after President's Day and carry forward from there. So, I posted this on Facebook also. I am reaching out to major media, newspaper and radio outlets so that people are informed. Of course, we will be having this informational Q&A session at the Hyde Fire Hall December 20th. We're going to be there. We're going to have refreshments. My hope is that we'll have some other speakers. I'm not a big fan of being in charge, Marge, personally. I like to stay out of the spotlight, but I'll do what I have to in this regard. We're hoping to have some of the other entities, involved, maybe say some words. I'd love to hear from the VA, kind of get some perspective there. And we're also actively seeking to reestablish a board and to put a 501c13 filing together with our charter before the end of the year. That would be perfect world. That's what we're hoping to do. So in wrapping up everything, just so you're aware of kind of the situation that we're going into, that's the time and the date of the event. It's going to be Tuesday, December 20th. Doors open 5:30. We're going to kick off at 6. The informational portion of the meeting is going to run about 40 minutes if I can help it. And we're going to be hosting, if you can't make it in person, whether due to weather, childcare, what have you, the meeting ID is going to be through Zoom. The ID is 812-1989-7446. That's the Zoom meeting ID, and the passcode is just HCCC. That's Historic Crown Crest Cemetery to get you into the meeting. Again, that's HCCC is the passcode to get you into the meeting. If you're going to come via Zoom, and if you're in like DuBois, Punxsutawney, surrounding areas, and you don't want to drive half an hour to be here, I absolutely understand that. I appreciate that. So feel free to use the Zoom faculties. We have 100 participants available for that meeting, so I don't think we'll cap it out realistically. But the informational session will be about 40 minutes, budget an hour just to be safe, and then we'll do a meet and greet Q&A. I'd love to get your feedback thereafter. So if you can join us on December 20th at roughly 6, Hyde Fire Hall, right down the road from the cemetery. Would love to see you there. Love to have your input. Love to have your experience in regards to that event. And that's about all I've got. This is going on Facebook. This should go radio, newspaper, and I sent out an email blast to all associated emails regarding this too. So that's all I've got for you. If you need any questions answered, have any concerns, etc., so forth, here's my Facebook contribution. It's the same thing I basically just read to you verbatim. So but anyway, yeah, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, grievances, or just generally want to talk, feel free to reach out again via Facebook Messenger, the Historic Crown Crest Cemetery Facebook group, or here 814-765-7742, or by email luke.walker@crowncrest.us. And that's about all I have for you. Thanks so much for taking some time, and have an awesome day. Oh, right. And since it's been like a millennia since I posted last, thanks for saying #for the crown.